With Adventist churches around the world closing their doors due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where and how can we continue to faithfully return our tithes and offerings?
We have the Stewardship Director for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Marcos Bomfim, with us today to talk about how important it is to still give to your church and where you can find online giving resources. Hi, Pastor Bomfim.
Hello, Emily.
Thank you so much for joining us on ANN today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, thank you. So stewardship, tithing, can you explain to us why giving is so important?
Let me make a difference between giving like donation and financial spiritual giving. Any giving is very important. It will affect our character. It will affect our inner being. But it may have no effect on our spiritual life. Only the financial spiritual giving will have some effect in our spiritual life. Because, for instance, let me say tell the difference between donation and financial spiritual giving. When I make a donation, I am the owner, and then I am giving from what is mine. So I am in a position of power. But when it comes to spiritual financial giving, I am no longer the owner. Jesus owns everything. He's the owner of the universe. I recognize that. And I give only after his giving. And this kind of giving will attach me to him and make me to identify with his giving, because he gave himself, his life for me. And it will represent spiritual growth. So financial spiritual giving, it's very important for our spiritual growth. And Jesus said that our hearts will be in heaven when we invest our treasures there. So it's very important.
Yeah, yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was that clarification is also like pretty important to understand between like donating. So what is the difference between a promise, tithe, and an offering?
Well, tithe has a predetermined percentage established by God and is used mainly to provide for the authorized ministry, those who work 24/7 for advancing God's kingdom. But promise is used to identify, we use that word promise to identify regular and systematic offering. And that offering is alluded on Proverbs 3 verses 9 and 10, which says, "Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase." And then the promise is that, "So your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine." So why we call promise? Because understanding this text, and also Malachi 3 verses 8 to 10, where this offering is also alluded to, we see that God is expecting us to give not only tithe, but also an offering after, not before, after every giving. Every time he is giving us something. Mm-hmm. So in order to be consistent in our giving, we decide a percentage to give as offering. We call that a promise because we kind of promise. I decide a percentage. Let's suppose, like, I will mention a random number, like 5, 7, 10, 3%. I decide that percentage. And so every time God is giving me something, I will return my offering along with my tithe. And I am not returning my offering because the church is asking me, because there is a beautiful project, because someone is asking me from the pulpits to do that, or because I like the pastor or the missionaries. No, I give based on God's giving. Each time God is giving me, I will give. Even though there is no call, even though no one is asking me, because my giving is not as much related with the church as it is related with God, as a recognition of what is God giving me before. So I give after he's giving. He's ever the first to give. And promise is this kind of giving. Of course, we can give other kinds of offerings, like free will offerings. Free will offerings are different because it's based more on, I will say, more on calls, on my feelings, and it's not that regular and systematic as promise. So I would like to say that promise is maybe the most basic way of giving offerings. And it's giving every time you tithe, you also give promise. I am doing that, and I am very happy to understand that. After I understood that, it gave me freedom. I'm no longer dependent on calls, on people, on projects. People may try to make me cry in the church, but I will give the same thing because I am already committed to do that. And I have that percentage chosen, and I will give that every time, having calls or not.
Yeah, I like how you said that it actually gave you freedom. That's like a really nice way to look at that. Yeah. So during this time, a lot of churches, many churches are closed. Why is it still important to prioritize your giving to the church?
Well, what I will say now, it will seem to be like a scandal, but I will say I very rarely, very seldom give to the church. Actually, I give to God in the church, which to me, it's totally different, because I am not in the business to help the church. This is Jesus' function. He is the one who helps the church. I am in the business of worshiping him. And so as I mentioned before, I give him after his giving. Every time he gives me, I look back to his giving and I say, hey, there was an income. There was an increase. God is giving me something. Oh, so nice. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. Lord, I will recognize your giving by tithing and by giving my promise, which is percentage-based offering, a regular systematic offering. So I also taught my children. They are adults and they have their children, but I taught them not to give to the church. Don't give to the church. Give to God in the church, because the Bible says that there is a place where we are supposed to bring our tithe and our promise. It's not any place we decide. God has assigned a place for us to bring. But in this time when churches are closed, what I do, I am doing the same thing I am doing when the churches are opened. I am using my giving app, to give when I am in the church, or usually I calculate my tithe and my promise here in my house. But when I go to the church Sabbath morning, even though I already gave my tithe and my promise, I like to give something, because it's like a way to worship God. Everyone is giving, and it's a kind of environment of worship. So I like to make a prayer, to say a prayer, an individual prayer, a silent prayer, and then to say, God, I am coming here to your house, and I would like to recognize your blessings in my life during this week. So I open my app, and at the very moment I give something, and sometimes the deacon comes and extends to me the offering plate, and like to play with them, I just show my phone, like saying I am giving, but through my app. So in that way, I don't need to go to have cash, because we are living in a cashless society. And some people just use cash for offerings, but you no longer need to do that. In many places in the world, we have those apps available. It's very convenient. And we are worshiping God in the same way, of course.
Yeah, I've used the app before, and it's super easy to use. It's very easy. Yes. So many people, millions in the US and around the world, have lost their jobs, and they're worried about finances and about giving. What can they still do to give back to their churches?
Well, let me from the beginning say something that I consider very important. God is not expecting any tithe or offering from those who have not received any income of increase from him, not even the church.
Mm.
We are not supposed to start the process of giving. God is ever the one who starts it.
Mm.
So, and the very theology of tithe and promise, that kind of regular and systematic offerings, it's established to teach us that truth, that God is the initiator. He is the one that begins that process. So if God is not giving me anything, he is not expecting me anything. And you can watch a video that is available in our website and also in our YouTube channel. And the title is, How Much is the Tithe of Zero? It's a very interesting question. When I was very young, I was a boy in the church. My pastor made that question: how much is the tithe of zero? If you do not have any income, your tithe is zero, because the tithe of zero is zero. So don't, in this case, you don't give anything, and you are faithful, 100% faithful, because tithe is supposed to be given only after God's giving. So God is ever the first to give. And when I recognize that what I have received came from him, then I will tithe. On the other hand, when I don't tithe, I am, after receiving something, I am stating that I don't believe that God is the one that is giving me. So it belongs to me. I am the owner. I will not share with him. I will not give back to him, because it means that I don't recognize him like Abraham, like Jacob, like so many others in the Bible that recognized God. So giving back when he gives me, it's a way to recognize him.
You've created new resources for people in the area of stewardship and giving. Where can people find these resources, and what can they expect to see?
Oh, well, if you would like to have resources for your church, or even for your own growth, you can go to stewardship.adventist.org. I will say again, stewardship.adventist.org. Or if you just Google Adventist Stewardship, the first website that will appear, it's the GC website. You will find commitment cards, free books, very interesting books. I will mention, first of all, Concepts on Stewardship is very interesting, even for our own life. Offertory videos and videos for millennials, in training them, educating them on stewardship, on tithes and promise, other educational videos, our magazine, The Dynamic Steward, and our newsletter. I mean, there is a lot of resources, and you can just go there and choose what seems best to you. But we have just now launched giving options for those who are unable to bring their offerings to the church. And this page can be found not in the Stewardship website, but in the Seventh-day Adventist Church website. So you go to adventist.org/giving. I will say again, adventist.org/giving. And in this page, you will find a lot of giving options during these difficult times we are facing now, when most of our churches are closed.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all these resources and for all this information. Is there anything else you would like to share?
I would like to say that if you that are watching this interview now, would like to recommit your life to God, I would like to suggest you that to recommit my life with God, it will not start by giving money. It starts by dedicating time to stay in God's presence every morning. You give, but not money. You give your time, and your first time, and your best time. So you apply the God first principle. You go to the presence of God. You take time for praying, for then studying your Bible, then studying your Sabbath school quarterly, and then reading Spirit of Prophecy. And during this time of confinement, many of us are confined, I included, And I believe you also, Emily.
Yes.
Yeah, we are
Mhm.
confined. We have, supposedly, we have more time to study. Maybe during normal times, we do not have so much time as we would like to. But now, why not to invest this time, this extra time, to get closer to God, to commit our lives to Him? But then also, when it comes to our financial life, why not to put God first? This is a very important principle in our spiritual life that will affect all our lives. And Jesus said that if we seek him first, all other things will be added to you. So
Mm.
this principle is very, very important.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I really believe that this will be helpful to a lot of people. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.